I've dealt with a lot of commercial loans. I'm probably the only one in this room that has. Have you?
So let's start that.
Now, my
listen.
question is this.
Please.
That I've spoken to a couple of people and I don't have answers yet. That in my opinion, I don't think that this deal is legal. We have not missed a beat on payments. This thing gives them total control over everything. Every clause, and they say they don't want to do it, bing, we have to listen to them. Now, I've sent a proposal to a couple of friends of mine. They're going to send it over to their attorneys who are specialists on commercial loans. And probably in a couple of days, I'll have an answer whether this thing is legal. In my opinion, obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I think this is garbage. I think they're just trying to kill us, and they're doing a good job.
I have another question. It says here, a first priority security interest in all of the borrower's non-real property assets pursuant to law, which would include but not be limited to accounts receivable, general intangibles, chattel paper, letters of credit, or instruments and inventory. The collateral shall be free and clear of all liens, security interests, and claims other than those granted to Wachovia. What do we do about current liens that are, if we have current liens against the association, or we have a lien placed against the association, or there's a pending lawsuit against the association? How do we have to clear that up before they'll take over this loan?
They presented this proposal knowing the existing liens that we have on the property and we have against the unit owners. They've gotten everything is transparent to them, and they brought this to us. Now, one of the provisions that isn't written in here, but they said to us, is going forward, they would have the power to lien an apartment should the association become in default or dissolved. So basically what would happen, a lien on the association, should the association go out of business, will be passed on to the individual unit owners. Follow? So they have a lien on everyone's unit if the association becomes default. Which is basically one and the same. Yes.
But do they have a prior lien on every unit owner's apartment?
No, there will be no. And that's the question I asked them, if when someone tries to sell their property, if a lien will show up, as they said no. The only lien as such would be against the association, not the individual unit owners.
Is that in writing?
It would not, sorry?
Is it in writing or is it just verbal?
This is just an initial proposal. This is not anything to be signed as yet. That still needs to come back to us from their attorney. Pretty much. With shame.
May I ask, because my ignorance, but for those who have already paid in full,
Right.
can their unit be attached?
And that's Joe.
Linda, I would not think so. I'm not an attorney, but I would not think that you would be. What this mainly is, they have the right, like we have the right to lien any apartment that doesn't pay their assessments. We've transferred it to them, so they have the right, if they're not getting their payment.
To lien an individual unit that's
Right.
not paid?
Right. Right.
Joe.
You're next, okay?
Will you explain, because we were quite confused at that meeting, at least I was. What do they mean, shall maintain a swap for full term of the loan? The word swap, S-W-A-P. That was a big discussion. What is that?
Well, basically, that's the difference. The swap at a certain designated date, they didn't give us that, what will be in the loan document, between what they're going to charge us monthly, which would be about anywhere between 4.5% to 5%, and this derivative, which at this time is 7.23 at this point in time. So we would have to pay the difference in interest to them.
When?
From that date to the date that, when we started this loan till, say we signed these papers in December or January 1st. Or from January to when this point in time comes, we'll probably be like 6 months from now. We would have to pay any difference, a derivative in the interest rate.
Ronald.
Excuse me. Since I was only an observer and did very little talking in that so-called meeting, the only thing I can pass on to the board is the following. You have to be very realistic. If we don't come to some kind of agreement tonight, there's a danger that we will be in default of our loan on December 15th. And they could put a lien on our property.
Yes.
So this is a very, very serious matter.
Yes.
Now, going over their proposals, there might be I have 18, 19, which maybe can go back and forwards with an attorney. They can be corrected, they can be eliminated, they can be added or subtracted. But the board should know, however, we're obligating ourselves, look, we have no choice. We're obligating ourselves to give them $50,000 a month. This is interest and principal.
Right.
Hopefully we get a breakdown how the 50 is working, how much is principal.
Yeah, they're giving us,
In
we're getting
addition-
amortization schedule.
In addition to the monthly payment, we have to put in deposit, whatever it's called, 3 months of $50,000. The reason I'm saying 50,000 could maybe be a problem, I don't want to discourage, but I want the facts to be out. At the present time, our accounts receivable will hardly make that figure. We're going to have a problem collecting our assessment. I think right now, if my memory is correct, we are not even correct, that we only have, the assessment only has coming in $60,000, $70,000 a month, correct? Therefore.
Okay, Art, let me just, because everyone's trying to follow you, and let me explain what the thinking behind the bank's proposal is. Right now, as Arthur just said, our income on that special assessment is running about 60,000, just over 60,000. The initial amount that was levied against the owners was 72,000, but we've had unit owners who paid ahead and paid off their loan. So right now we are realizing $60,000 a month coming in on that special assessment. What the bank has done is they're going to convert this line of credit and give us a rate where we pay about $50,000 a month. The difference of $10,000 is their cushion. They want to have that every month as a cushion should we have more delinquent accounts. So they'll always have money in there as a buffer. Now that $10,000 that is coming in, they want us to put aside and hold in an account for any contingencies that may come up with delinquencies and so forth.
Howard, the Vice President says the best thing we ever done was to collect interest plus.
Wait a second, one at a time.
Because right now, we have approximately $300,000, which is interest and cushion, and the Vice President said that's the best thing you ever done.
Yeah.
Because now when you're starting to pay principal and interest, you have that money available.
Okay.
The question is that we continue getting money coming in every month to pay that particular debt.
And just to address what Arthur just said, we've got, when we started this collection process, the special assessment a year ago in 2007, how the special assessment was set up at the time was for principal and interest on $7 million. However, for the first year, and in fact, until now, still present, all we've been paying the bank is interest. So that principal was being held in an account. Today, if we look at that account plus some prepayments that we've got holding, we can actually pay down the loan of about another $500,000. So that'll bring us to about $4 million. $5 million. And at that rate, when the initial discussion was done between ourselves and the bank, and they were saying to amortize that amount over 15 years, when they realized we have another $500,000 in the bank, and if we paid that down and it became $5 million, they're saying, and they're going to send me the worksheet on it, but they're thinking that we may actually still be within 10, we can do it in 10 years instead of 15 years. They've gone back to work the numbers and get back to us on it. So that is the thinking on that.
I'm trying to say, the way I feel, we have no choice, no other way but trying to prove this loan, hoping that we can negotiate some better incentives on some of these items.
Well, we agree, but we gotta be careful about the prepayment penalty. One more, this lady here has been raising her hand a long time.
Here's my question. If we don't accept this proposal, what happens?
We'll translate it for you. If we don't accept this proposal, what happens? That's our question. Okay, Ron?
Well, we kind of said that the bank will then put a lien on the association for the $5.5 million. They want to get repaid in full.
I have a suggestion. This came upon us all of a sudden.
So,
I think it's a good proposal considering how the economy is. I run a billion-dollar business. We've gone to several banks. I feel I'm not real happy about $10,000 that they're asking for.
we all feel the same.
Some of the things that they've requested are a little bit above and beyond, but at this point in time, if you don't renew this now and take this offer, I think we're gonna be in trouble. And
I agree.
think it's a really good move to take this. It's a great offer. I think it's, give a little, take a little.
Exactly, and they have, I mean, as Howard just said, actually it would end up being about $4.9 million is what we left on the loan. And with that amortization, what they propose, we should have a lot extra money to make sure that we can always make our monthly payment and maybe amortize this down faster than previously projected.
Okay, I have.
This lady here, I said she could have it. Next, Scott. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I'd like to know what we're gonna do about the foreclosures at the empty apartments.
Wow, we're coming back to that. That's the $1 million question. Not only here, but a lot of other associations. I represent about 170 associations, and it's basically the same.
Yes,
So, Scott.
I don't think the board is capable of making a proper decision on this just because we're intimidated by December 17th. I'm going to make a suggestion that we need our attorney involved in this, and I suggest that Howard gets in touch with Lee Katzman, who's got a powerhouse legal firm, has a lot of connections. He's an 800-pound gorilla we need on our side. Present this to him tomorrow and ask him if he can get us another bank, but first of all, to write on our behalf and get an extension until January 30th, because we have a board meeting on December 30th, and there'll be a change in the board seats, and this is what the basis he may want to use, and get us the extension and have time to go and get us another company to borrow money. Maybe we can get better deal from another company that Lee Katzman can present rather than submit to this, because this is absolute indenture for the next 15 years.
No, actually 5 years. It's being amortized over 15 years. This is 60 months, 5 years.
Go ahead. I have a question. I want to clarify something. You're describing what is essentially a 15-year loan with a balloon in 5.
Basically,
Right? Okay. Currently, it's 3.75 over LIBOR.
Right.
Which LIBOR?
London.
There's more than one.
London.
The 5-year LIBOR. The 5-year, not the one, not the daily and not the 3-month. The 5-year LIBOR. And you're saying the 5.6 million, that does not include all the prepayment money that was, or the money that, so will we have the option of using this chunk of money that we've received? So it's a $5 million loan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Probably about 4.9, a little over 4.9 million.
Okay. That clarifies, thank you.
Scott, that's a good point, and I know Lee Katzman very well. In fact, I was at his wedding. I knew him when he was just like this tall. Now he's, like you said, 800-pound gorilla. He's really done very, very well. And that's something we can look into, but I don't know if this bank is going to go ahead and allow this. You know, if he went, maybe, you know, he can ask the bank, but I think, however you agree, Jerry, they're pretty emphatic that this is it. That this is it. You know, they're hurting just like everybody else, and they want to get this resolved and move on. But we could try it. You know,
Are you
they could
saying
try
that
it.
we should approve this tonight?
I didn't say tonight.
I
think the board-
Well, why can't Howard go to Lee Katzman?
I said he could. I didn't say he could
Okay,
not.
so I'm gonna make a motion to have Howard go to Lee Katzman and to try to get us an extension till January 30th and try to find us another bank to take out Wachovia.
I second.
We're still in discussion. Can we still continue the discussion?
You can still talk, we're just going, whether we want to do that.
A problem that has become bigger than you would imagine is the fact that the original deal was structured based on certain time frames. And what has happened, the time frames have changed. And instead of starting the mortgage when it was supposed to have started, we have continued to pay interest only. And so the longer we wait, the more what the bank refers to as overhang will be a problem. And by that they mean we're only going to be collecting funds from the assessment for another 9.5 years. But this is amortized over 15 years. So that means at the end of 9.5 years, our income stream is going to disappear. And I'm sorry. No, this is me. I'm talking too close. So that is the bank brought this up to our attention, and it is it's a potential problem. Particularly if our income stream, even in the 9.5 years, gets reduced by foreclosures and we don't get funds from the assessment. So the later we wait, the more the overhang. Okay, so, and as far as asking Mr. Katzman, I've seen him. I haven't seen his gorilla status, but it is a nice place that they operate out of. But to me, the problem is time frame and the industry, the banking industry today, regardless of Mr. Katzman. Mr. Katzman is no bigger than General Electric, and General Electric had to go to Warren Buffett and borrow $3 billion at 10%. So, I don't see spending more time waiting benefits us. And I just wanted to share this overhang concept with you. Okay? Yes, sir.
What says that the bank is going to wait?
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. I heard you the first time. Okay? I don't think this is a bad deal, particularly when you, I'm sorry. Particularly, it's not a bad deal when you consider the industry today and the direction. We still haven't bottomed out in the market. We don't know what's going to be happening. Yes, Michael.
May I ask, please,
Sure.
Howard, approximately what is our percentage rate of delinquent maintenance today?
It's irrelevant.
Percentage-wise.
It's not irrelevant. It's not irrelevant.
And going forward,
And the reason I hesitate to answer you, because we've got, really can split that out into two areas. We've got a current delinquency, which could become a potential problem, and we've got the real delinquencies, which are liens and foreclosures. That being said, in my report, which I'll give after this, let me just pull it up.
but it is something that's growing, is my point. This is an issue, something that's getting worse.
It's,
And
okay,
right.
over the last, and I'm looking at the graphs right now, over the last 3-4 months, it has remained about the same. Yes.
But the number of foreclosures in process have increased.
No, actually, from the last meeting we had, the number of liens and demand letters that were sent out. We collected, and which was surprising. We had 48 of those units settled and paid from the initial letters that went out, the
So
demand
you
letters.
see an improving trend in foreclosures?
Well, foreclosures. I'm speaking of people who are
Delinquent.
sent a demand letter, a 60-day demand, with a demand that if not, they're going to lien. At that point, they're going in and paying. But they're also paying attorney fees, which is unfortunate. Because once a lien goes out, you know how...
Right, but what is the trend in delinquent maintenance? Is it going up or is it going down?
That's what I'm saying. The current delinquencies, they look high. And if I were to answer you on that premise, yes, it's going up. But what I'm saying is once those letters go out, we are collecting the monies on it. So it's flat for the last 3 or 4 months. That's what I'm saying.
Ron,
If that makes sense, I don't know.
Ron, I've got a question. How did the meeting end? In other words, what are we supposed to do now? We have a week to get back to them and see, we want to have another meeting with them. What's the next step from their viewpoint?
Well, my understanding was we got to the 17th and they want an answer.
Sorry, give me that again?
They kind of knew that we were looking at other banks. They don't know that the other bank has said no.
Believe me, they know. It's a small knit group, they know.
Okay.
You gotta assume they know.
Well, no, but when we met with them, I only found out from the second bank that they weren't going to do it yesterday. And we met with these guys last week.
The point is, what is our next move with them?
Well, we have to give them an answer. Are we going to go with this decision?
Well, what's the time frame is what I'm looking for.
No.
I know the 17th is the end, but if you don't do it on the 17th, it's over. Like, we have to speak to them next week and have a meeting with the whole board. What are we supposed to do
We have a
now?
meeting with the board tonight. This is a whole board.
But we need to come up with a decision. If the decision is to continue looking, I think that really doesn't make any sense.
Don't they want an answer by
Okay.
Friday?
Yeah.
I just want to ask one thing. Once we say we're interested and they initiate the paperwork, which is when the time we want Councilman to be looking and negotiating, I would think for us, okay. Do we have to give them the 10,000 before they will move to prepare the paperwork?
No, that I don't know. But actually, I was going to address that.
Take it off the
They'll
vote.
take it off, and they'll take it at
Then we should have them move to prepare it. We have
And
nothing
that's
to lose.
basically what I was going to address.
Yeah,
Although they said the 17th was the last date they'll
this
cut it.
process.
Right. We need to let them know beforehand so they can get this out to their attorneys, go over it, and then present it so we can take it to our attorneys and back and forth. The last signing date on it is the 17th.
Howard, question. What do we have to lose by asking Lee Katzman to look into this?
No, I
I'm
have.
telling you, I
no.
don't think this document
I
is legal.
agree.
What do we have to lose?
Stuart,
We want to
I
sign
agree
it,
with
and then we'll
Stuart,
find out
this is
I'm right.
not the document yet. If
Right.
we tell them to go forward, then Lee Katzman can examine the document that
Well,
they
he can
produce.
examine this proposal and give us his opinion on what we should do.
But
He's on our side, they're the enemy.
Yeah, but
Okay, here's a compromise.
we're saying the same thing, really.
Maybe what a compromise will be is that it will not cost us anything for them to prepare their documents for us.
Let 'em prepare.
And at the same time, I speak to Lee Katzman, as Scott has suggested, and see if he's got anything that he can do for us with another bank.
Then call him up tomorrow, tell him to repair
I mean, that's
And when they do,
we'd have
send it right over to
one
Lee.
in
I don't
process,
have a
and
problem
if Lee
with
can do
that.
something else, then we do it.
I don't have a problem with that, just get Lee involved as fast as possible.
That's smart.
Which was, I'm sure, planned to do. Us gentlemen here, you made a great point about the receivables. Our receivables aren't great, ladies and gentlemen. But this bank is still, and that's why we've lost the other banks. If they do a real study of their accounts receivable, the delinquency rates, etc., and they do some projections, and that's why they say, thanks, right, no thanks. While Cobia has the same thing, but they're willing to work with us on it. So, in a way, we're lucky they didn't say, no, we don't want to convert this, we want our money now. So, you know, that's a good, just remember that.
I happen, excuse me, Jerry, I'm afraid I have to
I don't like it
repeat
either.
what I said before, and Jerry is probably correct. We don't have the luxury where we can go to a lot of banks. The only luxury we have is Katzman maybe can modernize 1 or 2 or 3 items on that. We should decide tonight.
Yes.
that
Right.
After Councilman reviews it, we go ahead with the deal. Because the board should know, and I don't know why they don't look further. Our financial operating expenses are not in that good of shape. We lost money in 2007, we lost money in 2008. We have a lot of projects we want to do next year, so therefore, we're not, so therefore,
Listen.
I'd like to see, yes, Councilman should look at it. Maybe we can change some of these to our benefit, but I think by December 15th, like they said, we have to commit ourselves one way or the other.
Listen, let's be honest about this situation. The only reason that Wachovia is talking to us is because we already have their money.
Right.
That's the only reason. If we didn't have their money, they'd be just like every other bank.
Yeah.
So there really isn't an option here. There's nobody that's going to put fresh money into this thing. So
And we need to get the paperwork initiated so there's something to talk about.
The fact that we have $945,000 coming in, and the fact that Lee Katzman's firm is trying to get us another $1 million. He may be able to tie something together, using that with a little leverage, possibly to get us another bank.
Right.
And I think that we gotta do work post haste to him, and let him at least review it.
All right, that's fine.
Within a
Scott.
week,
I think
maybe,
that's fine.
we have another
Well,
offer.
no, I don't think that they're going to go find another bank. I don't think in the time that we have. They may be able to.
Well, if he can get an
tighten up,
extension, he may
maybe
be able to get an extension.
Well, again, I'm not for an extension because we're paying, I mean, I have my vote, everybody has their vote, but the extension has cost us a lot. We've been paying interest only, we haven't been paying principal, and now our amortization schedule is out of sync, which may mean another assessment at the end of the pay period, at the end of the original assessment period. So the longer we wait, the worse that overhang becomes. So, and then considering the economy, I think, yeah, I see. Michael, you wanted to say something?
Well, I just wondered how, having read the delinquent maintenance report closely for the last several months, it appears we're going to have about a $450,000 deficit for what we budgeted for the year for maintenance and assessment income. How are we making that up?
That's not my understanding. That's not my understanding. But we're not into the budget meeting right now. Okay, so let's not jump into that.
Well,
Sarah,
with that growing, I would think.
right, I understand, but I don't believe that that's the case.
I think there's been sufficient discussion on
Yeah.
it. I think the board should show their intent to
Yeah.
go with this project.
Okay, we're
And
getting there.
and call the question.
Fine, we're
We have
getting
other
there. You're in a
matters.
rush to go home. I can see that. Alrighty, are there any other questions? All right, so what shall we do, Howard? We should have a vote on whether to get Wachovia going on the proposal, and in the meantime,
Have
we'll.
Katzman-
There's a motion on the table.
There's a
Okay.
motion on the table.
Fine, okay,
There's a
so.
motion.
Okay.
Scott, you wanna make?
Mr.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Scott has made a motion to take